Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. I am a believer in instant disclosure, sudden disclosure. You know, that's the way I think it should go down. I talk about that all the time, that I think the Band-Aid needs to be ripped off in one quick action. You know, it's like, so when you're a little kid, right, and you get hurt, you get a cut on your arm, right, and your mom puts a Band-Aid on your arm, and your Band-Aid's on there for a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, right? And then it comes time to take the Band-Aid off, and you're 6, 7 years old, and you go to your mom, hey, can you take this Band-Aid off my arm now? And now, if your mom were to stand there and just take it off slowly, it would be a long drag, it would be a long process, long, painful process. If she were to just slowly, like pulling up the little hairs on your arm. And then finally it's removed, but there's all this other pain you experience. Now, if she was to grab the Band-Aid and just like pull it off real quick, right, all it's going to be, and then it's going to be over with. The pain's over with quickly. Right, it's the same thing with, like, people who get sick sometimes. People who get sick and they have this long, drawn-out ending to their lives. It happens all the time. Right? People get sick, with cancer or whatever, and there's long, drawn-out process. Family members are suffering along with the person who's sick and dying, and then finally it comes to a conclusion, and it's just a long, drawn-out process. Everyone's so upset because of what this person who they loved for all these years, how the end came to for this person. Right, it's a very, very painful for the person, and it's very, very painful for the friends and family of this person, because it took so long for this person to finally pass on. And then there are people out who cutting the grass, smoking a pipe, waving over to his buddy across the way in the other lawn, Charlie. Hey, Charlie, how you doing? Next thing you know, and he drops over dead with a heart attack, and it's over in one instant. And then later on at the viewing, people are seeing each other. Well, he went quick. There was no pain. That's one good thing. I mean, that's how it is. That's just how it is. I mean, the quicker the better, right? The quicker the better. And I believe that's why I always say I think the Band-Aid with the UFO thing, the UFO problem, the extraterrestrial reality issue, needs to be ripped off, immediately for the whole world right now. No more waiting. No more waiting for whistleblowers to step forward. Although that's what's going to happen, just because I'm sitting here and spouting off. Not everyone's going to hear this. I mean, there's, even if I had a gigantic following, even if I had 10 million subscribers on YouTube and 10 million followers on my Spotify podcast, even if I had that, still nothing would happen. It wouldn't matter what I say, because I have no power. I have no power, right? I have no money, no power, no nothing. I have nothing. Right. So, but I mean, that's the way it should be. I mean, when you really, people who sit back and know that something's going on, and they're tired of this whole cover up, and have been, waiting their whole lives, waiting, decades and decades for this whole secret to be revealed to the world, so we could move on. And so it's not, stigmatized anymore. I mean, we're sick of waiting, and we just want to see the Band-Aid ripped off already. Like a lot of people want to see that Band-Aid torn off, and just in one quick action, and it's over, and we move on. Now, Christopher Mellon, who is he was the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, on December 24th, he wrote an opinion piece, basically blasting the media for not covering some of the recent revelations with regard to the UFO issue. In particular, he was upset that the major media was not covering the fact that the president had just signed the 2023 National Defense Authorization Act bill, and in that bill was whistleblower protection for anyone within the Pentagon or military industrial complex who has knowledge with regard to what is being hidden from the public with regard to UFOs and extraterrestrial and recovered extraterrestrial craft, right? Who has knowledge that now they could come and meet with the Congress and tell the Congress what they know without any fear of any sort of repercussions. So, I mean, that's big news. But of course, that wasn't covered by anyone in the mainstream media. Right, and apparently there are whistleblowers apparently lining up to talk about this. I just saw an interview recently with George Knapp, who was a reporter and also a UFO investigator, as well as Jeremy Corbell, who's a filmmaker and UFO investigator. I saw these two guys talking on a recent interview. I believe it was with Kurt J. Mungle from Theories of Everything. And I just saw a little clip of this on Twitter yesterday or today with them guys saying that they know of all these whistleblowers that are ready to step forward and meet with Congress and tell everything they know. So this should be a big story, right? This should be a big story. I mean, apparently, this legislation is now passed. I mean, another part of this story is the fact that the Congress had to pass this at all in the first place. What does that tell you? It tells you that obviously people within the Congress, right, and the President of the United States believe that there is a cover-up, that somebody has authority somehow within our military-industrial complex and/or Pentagon to keep the reality of the extraterrestrial presence from the public. Right? So obviously they're doing this because it seems like this is all they could do to pry that information away. I mean, why else would you pass legislation like that unless you believed that somebody's covering it up? And the only way to get that information out of these people is to rely on some whistleblowers to step up and tell you what they know. And maybe we'll find out who's in charge of this when it's all said and done. But somebody's in charge of this, so obviously this is a big story. There's a hidden group, there's a secret group, covering this up for all this time, and the Pentagon knows this, and the Congress realizes that the only thing that they could do to get this information is to pass this kind of legislation, and it was signed by Biden. Now, the only thing that I've really seen in the mainstream press about this, they talked about the bill passing. It's basically almost $1 trillion budget for defense for 2023. That they talked about that, but they didn't really talk about this whistleblower protection that's included. But that's a big story. But Mellon was upset with that, so he wrote this big article. And he actually wrote another article, which I will get into later on. But anyway, with the article that he published on the 24th of December, he made a comment here, and I agree with it and disagree with it. And this is the comment. It says here, "The media is doing the public a great disservice by ignoring the UAP issue because a sudden, shocking revelation runs the risk of being far more disruptive and disturbing than information gradually processed and absorbed. If these claims prove true, blindsiding the public greatly increases the risk of negative consequences." I agree and disagree with that statement. I mean, I guess the sudden, shocking revelation, I think that would depend on how that happens. I mean, if the sudden, shocking revelation is a whole bunch of giant motherships showing up over major cities across the globe all of a sudden, and I think that would be a bad way for the world to find out that there's an extraterrestrial presence. Independence Day style, that would be bad. Okay. But I don't think it's bad, for someone to step up to a podium like right now, today, tomorrow, January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd, right now, just somebody in Washington, right, steps up to a podium and just tells the world that there's an extraterrestrial presence here. We've been covering. Just tell the truth, basically, too. I mean, you could probably embellish some things, just for the sake of national security, like reverse engineering progress and things like that. But have somebody step up to the podium and just say, right out, yeah, there's an extraterrestrial presence. We've been studying this since 1947. We have been trying to reverse engineer some of the recovered craft that we have. This is how many recovered craft we have. There have been alien bodies that have been recovered in some of these crashes. Things like that. Just tell the public the truth. You could also say we're not really sure what their intentions are. We don't think that they're hostile, but we're not really sure. We do understand that some people say they're abducted by aliens, and we're not really sure what that. Just tell the truth. Now, of course, there's going to be people that are upset about it, but it's the reality of the situation. Just get it out there real quick. Just boom. And then forego all of this nonsense, actually forget about the whistleblowers stuff, in Congress. I mean, we could still have it, but it could be after the fact stuff, after the fact information that's fed to the Congress and then hopefully leaked to the public. And that's fine, but it'd be better, I think, just to rip that Band-Aid off real quick. One quick, and then just move on. That's the way it should be. Just rip that Band-Aid off. I mean, basically, we've been having a slow disclosure in a way, when you really think about it anyway, since 1947. For the last 75 years now, there's basically been a slow disclosure. I mean, a lot of us are actually already know what's going on, right? I know what's going on. I saw one of the creatures. I know that there's something here. I saw one of their craft, so I know there's something here. And there's, millions of other people who have seen these craft, and they know that there's something here. There's millions of other people who say they've been abducted by these things, so they know that there's something here, right? So there is a group, there is a percentage of people throughout this planet, right, who know that there's something here without the government telling them. It's the rest of the people who don't know. They need to know. It's time for them to know. It's time to bring them in on the loop. And do it suddenly. Why wait? I mean, what's the difference? Really, what's the difference? There is no difference. Just, tell the truth. I mean, wouldn't it be better for this secret control group, whether it's called Majestic 12 or whatever it's called, right? There obviously is some secret control group, because otherwise, why would Congress feel it necessary to have this whistleblower language included in the National Defense Authorization Act bill? Why would they include that if there is no secret control group that seems to have authority over this subject, right? Then we wouldn't need to do this. I say to that secret control group, hey, tell us what you have now instead of playing this game here. Instead of making us spend millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to hold all these hearings, right? Instead of doing all of this nonsense, why don't you just come out with what you know right now? Because we know that you exist. There's no question that you exist. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. The Congress wouldn't have passed that bill with that language in there, and the president wouldn't have signed it otherwise. So that means you're known now. It's a known thing. You exist, whatever you are, MJ12 or whatever you call yourself now. Who knows? I don't know, but you're there. You do exist. So just come out right out with it now. Suddenly, all of a sudden, tear the Band-Aid off for the world. Why not? It doesn't matter. I mean, let's if we just keep going this route, this waiting, a build up to something, right? No matter which way you do it, right? Whether you do it suddenly, like right now, or if you wait for another 5, 10, 12, 20, 50, 60 years, whatever you're planning on doing, right? No matter what, at some point it's gonna be a shock to people, right? It doesn't matter. So you might as well just come out with it right this second. I mean, make it sudden, end the pain. Let's get over this hump and move on as a human race here instead of this nonsense. A lot of people are interested in this and they want answers. They're sick of waiting on this stuff. Now, of course, we have been making major strides in the past 5 years, I must say. I mean, if it wasn't for people like Christopher Mellon and Luis Elizondo and all these other people stepping up to the plate, the late Harry Reid, and then we have other UFO investigators who have been fighting the good fight, as Richard Dolan likes to say all the time, for all these years, trying to inform the public, educate the public about the reality of the situation, and that the government's covering this up. Well, yes, and now we got to a point where the government's starting to acknowledge that they deal with UAP on a regular basis. So we have, and they don't know what they are. Now, of course, it seems like there's been some pullback recently. Seems like they're trying to reel it in, as I've been talking about, over the past year. This seems like there's been an effort basically by some within the Pentagon who now all of a sudden they don't want to cross that certain line. Right? They were okay to give us a certain amount of information. Like, hey, they're basically, when it got to the point of there's objects out there that we can't explain that need more investigation, but that was it. They're trying to be very clear. Well, there's no evidence as extraterrestrial. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. That's a lie. People are sick of that lie from the government, from people within the Pentagon, like Ronald Moultrie recently, making that lie again. That's basically, he's lying. When the Pentagon says there's no evidence to show that it's extraterrestrial, that's a lie. That is a lie, obviously. I mean, there is. There's lots of evidence because these things are non-human, right? These beings don't look like humans. They have big heads. A lot of these beings, anyway. Big heads. They're short. Right? They don't. They have giant, big black eyes. They communicate telepathically to people that they involve themselves with. I mean, look at the 1994 Ariel School incident. That undeniable event, obviously undeniable. You can't deny it. There was extraterrestrials. That a flying saucer landed at a school in Zimbabwe at the school called Ariel school, and little beings got out, just like people have described over the years, people who have been abducted over the years, that have big heads, big black eyes, and one of them communicated telepathically with a handful of these kids, and gave them messages that included a future of showing destruction and chaos, and basically tied to our technological achievements. Apparently, it seems like, to me, it might have been a message about using nuclear weapons, right? But anyway, there's proof. A lot of us know this already. And the problem is the mainstream media, as Mellons pointed out, and of course the government. The government has been lying. The mainstream media has just been dopey, right? They don't seem to care about this for whatever reason. I don't know if they're being told to keep quiet, like the people at the top of these media empires. If they're being told by people within the Pentagon, "Hey, don't go there." I mean, who knows? Probably that's what I think is something like that's probably going on. They're all tied in together. It's all this whole corporate horse shit that we have to deal with. But the thing is, the bottom line is it's time. It's time to end this. It's time to bring the truth to the forefront, and we need to do it just in one fell swoop. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just like it's much better. Don't have us in the hospital suffering for 2.5 years, right? Don't do that. That's suffering. You're causing suffering, needless suffering, by throwing us in the hospital. That's what you're doing, in a way. You're basically you're putting us in the hospital, the whole human race, and having them suffer for a couple more years for no reason, when you could just tell us the truth right now. Why do we have to endure some more suffering? Right? Why do we have to do that? Why do this? Why play this game? With all these congressional hearings, why not just come right out with the truth right now? I don't want to suffer anymore. I want this heart attack to happen right now, not 2.5 years from now. I don't want to, suffer like this. And I think the rest of the world would feel the same way. Quicker the better.